Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. We have an amazing show for you today. We're going to be talking about how women can rediscover a purpose, their identity, and it's never too late. And I'd like to introduce my guest for today's show. She's a speaker, an author, also a leadership coach, and also the founder of Empowered Moms, Dr. Emily Jacobs. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cindy. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm really excited because I think anyone watching, and of course, I know we're going to be talking about women moms and things, but I think this can go for anybody. Maybe let us know how you started down this path that led to that, because you were living a very successful life. You were a mom and a wife. And so maybe you can help us with setting up the story here with your own personal situation.
Yeah, so it's actually twofold. One is I was in nursing for about 20 years, so many different positions in nursing. The primary role was a clinical nurse specialist and educator in the ICU, and I love teaching, and I love helping people see difficult concepts in a light. I also notice a lot of toxicities and a lot of burnout, and you kind of think it's going to come and go, but burnout's still here and it remains. And so I kind of noticed that on top of experiencing my own as a new mom. All of that came into fruition to start the community that I run and company that I run called Empowered Moms, because all of that put together, I also saw my mom, after she became a mom, she would say things to me like, oh, you give up your life for your kids. It's just what you do. And I think I would have been able to accept that. Except what I saw from her on the inside was, over the years, giving up on herself, her dreams, her life, and really truly not knowing who she was and not knowing how to best take care of herself. So as a woman watching that and then having my own children, I realized that there has to be another way. We can be ambitious women, have goals, be good wives and mothers, and dream. We don't need to stop our dreams. And if I'm going to continue, if I want my children to believe in that, I have to role model that. And so really the purpose behind our company is showing ambitious women that it actually does matter. It's helpful to bring your children along and to show them that you can do anything and your dreams can continue. Really, for me, it was instead of watching someone giving up on that and becoming bitter, not so much blaming, but just, this is just what you do, is what my mom would say. And I think that was just really hard for me to hear. So that's kind of the huge nutshell, is like big picture into myself, my career, and then realizing that I really wanted to help and like nurse, still have my nursing license, but still kind of help and care for people in a different way. So they can be really excited about their lives and excited about waking up in the morning.
And that is amazing. And like you said, it would have been easy to say, okay, just you give it up for your children. That's what you do. And a lot of people do need to do that for whatever reason. And that when you started to say you want a little bit more and you want to find your own identity and kind of get back to who you are, how did your mom view that when you started to tell her that, I think I want to find my purpose again here later in life?
My mom was my biggest cheerleader. So I have to start with that. My mom was like living vicariously through me. But once I had my first daughter, my mom passed away about 2 years later. Oh. And that was really the moment when my second daughter was born 2 weeks after my mom died. I was like, I don't want to choose to live burned out. I don't want to choose to live fine. There was like this 7-year-old little ambitious heart inside of me. She's always 7. It's really odd. This like little girl that's like, no, you're kind of meant to do bigger things or impactful things. Now, that's not to say, you're exactly right, Cindy. It's not everyone has that vision and that realization. And I completely respect that and understand that, but I did. And so what happens is, if you surround yourself with people that don't believe in that, you feel shame and guilt. When you find other women that are like, no, yeah, like, we can do this. And the reality is, we don't do it alone. I really don't do a lot of things alone. I don't do it alone in my company. I don't do it alone in motherhood. I'm leaning on people. And when you're willing to do that and be vulnerable, if you're willing to give and receive help and not just be a yes person to everybody, you really start building a community of people that breathe life into your dreams, or breathe life into moments that you got to pull it back and say, you know what, I have to refocus. I'm losing my focus on my priorities. And that's happened to me. That has totally happened to me. And where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm pouring more into this business or whatever than my own family. I gotta wake up. I gotta come back because yes, we do give up a lot of things as a mom and we sacrifice a lot. And to me, that's the most important thing. And I have moments where I have to come back and say, wait a minute, this is getting too consuming over here. I have to refocus. But that doesn't mean I can't have it. And that doesn't mean I can't still strive for keeping my identity and my little dreamer alive in me.
Right. And when women are watching, and like you said, it's great because then once they see that there's other women out there that they can surround themselves with kind of positive feedback and, and supportive, that I think helps drive people. But what happens if there's that self-doubt or that fear of taking that step? How do you help coach and mentor the women to help them get past those things?
I love that question. Number one, I have fear and self-doubt. So I always start with you're in good company. Every single thing I put out into the world, I'm like, well, I think this is a good idea and I hope it works. And the reality is helping women. There's no one size fits all. So diving deeper, obviously, if it's one-on-one, I'm working with someone, we can get really intimate in that. But there's fears that we all have, triggers that live on our shoulders that tell us that we're not good enough, essentially, that you shouldn't do this, it's going to fail, whatever those trigger words are. Mine was kind of like, you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or whatever. Who do you think you are? Right? We have these. So the reality is acknowledge what they're like pointing to my shoulders. Acknowledge what your triggers are. Realize that those triggers have been with you probably your whole life. They've protected you from harm in some ways. But right now, there's this excitement. There's this, I need to do this. It's waking me up in the middle of the night. And then the trigger comes in just on time. Every time. Trying to yank you back and say, no, that's for someone else to do, not you. And where it comes into some coaching is acknowledging it in a weird way, thanking it for showing up so timely, and then say, I'm not going to play that game today. I'm looking in the front view mirror, not the back one that maybe that used to work, and maybe minimizing myself, and maybe this used to work. And when I'm really working with someone, it's diving deeper into what is it that lights you up? I don't have that answer for this person, Cindy, and neither does, I don't have that answer, but you need to ask yourself, what lights you up? And how do we get more of that? And if you're saying, well, then this is what I want to do. I work with women in all different transitional seasons. The new moms, it really has nothing to do with exactly where they're at, but some people are transitioning from a corporate job to entrepreneurship. Some people are transitioning from full-time mom to empty nester. But either way, there's this identity shift and they're feeling lost in it. And they're like, I don't even know where to begin. The first thing you go in is, who am I and what do I like? Now that can cause stress and anxiety for some women because they're like, I don't know anymore. Well, then let's just keep peeling this onion back. And we got to breathe life into you first so that we can then discover what the next step is. Some women know the next step, but they're too scared. They're like, I don't know how to do it. Well, sometimes it's not so much how, it's who. Who do we need to connect you with that could help you in that? So really, when women make a decision and say, I want to try. Everything's a trial. I want to try. I want to breathe life in this idea. And if I fail, I fail. That's the other, sorry, I'm going to a bunch of key points at once, but failing is a part of this whole process. And I think a lot of us, myself included, was such a perfectionist where it's like, well, if I'm not going to do it perfect, it's not going to work. Well, no, sometimes we have to accept that good enough is actually good enough. And no one else really knows our perfect. Like no one, even when I'm speaking on stages, nobody knows that I messed up. So then don't show it. It's like, just keep going. And if you did mess up, how do you recover? Do you laugh at yourself? Do you like, well, at least I tried. So even as a mom teaching my children, it's like, you will 100% mess up. I mess up every day. I'm not a perfect mom. My kids, if I could I should start a t-shirt line that says that because I want them to know that's just part of life.
Right. Now, you talk about, and you've said before, like going from the words burnout to brilliance, and talking about creating boundaries. And people are saying, okay, I want to take this step. How do I take the step? Like you said, we have to look inside because, you're not going to know what that person needs. That person has to kind of create that themselves. How do they step out to do that? How do they start creating boundaries? Now, you mentioned, being a perfectionist, also people pleaser.
Yeah.
How do we step out from that to try to say, okay, I need to do priorities about myself?
You were asking my favorite questions. Okay, so number one is, I wrote in a book that I wrote. I talked about people pleasing and perfectionists, and one of the first lines is, "I'm a recovering people pleaser." I'm literally gonna squash that. That was 2022. I am a people pleaser, and the reality is, I love it. I love making someone's day. I love saying yes, and I love making people happy, and I love doing that. What we need to do, us people pleasers in the world, is don't forget that you're part of the puzzle. Don't forget you're part of the story. So maybe on a daily basis, or the next time you're about to say yes, you got to check in with I call it like your gas tank. Where are you? Where are you at right now? And if you're about to keep saying yes to everybody's and everything, and so quick to say yes, you haven't even checked in with yourself. So really, don't say yes if you're not okay. If you're going to go home and complain to your spouse, your partner, your friend, or your coworker, I'm busy, busy, busy. I'm so busy all the time. I have nothing left for myself at the end of the day. The first question I ask that person is, do you say yes to everybody's everything? Well, yeah. I mean, it's just a natural thing. Yeah, that's where we need to stop. That's the very first boundary. And when you said how, love answering this question too. Let's say it's for that purpose. How is, don't do that. I know it's so simple. No, don't answer so quickly. Take a deep breath. Let's say it's a text message and email. That's the easiest one, because you can literally hands-free walk away. Do not, even if you can do it right then, challenge yourself to see, how long can I pause and not say yes right away? Because when you do say yes right away, it trains your nervous system that that's more important than any other thought or thing you were doing. Now, people will say, well, Emily, what if I forget? Like, what if I don't answer right away, and I'm afraid I'm going to forget to do it? This is what I say to them. What happens if you forget? Oh, and I forgot to mention, these are non-emergent requests, Cindy. These are like, when you get a chance, or can you do this for me? Or, so what happens if you forget? You're the one they're asking. They usually say, oh, well, they'll ask me again. Exactly. Or they'll give up. They'll find a yes in someone else. And by the time you come back to them, they'll say, oh, already took care of it. Done deal. The thing is, you don't need to be everybody's yes. But what the best thing you can do is give them the answer first, as soon as you can, so they can find a yes in someone else. You're retraining people that you're not so quick to respond. That's where it starts. If it's in person, always harder, because you just want to say yes all the time. Let's say you said yes and you wish you didn't, because that happens all the time. I didn't even check my calendar. I just automatically said yes. You are allowed. Here's your permission slip right here to circle back and say, I am so sorry. I forgot to check my calendar. You know what? I'm not going to be able to do that. I hope you find someone. That is not a problem. Does it disappoint? Everyone says, I'm so afraid to disappoint someone. Does it disappoint them? Maybe in a split second. Remember, this was not emergent. In person, really quick, if they kind of get you,
Right.
then say the words, when do you need that answer by? And they start going, oh, I mean, Cindy, like, what if they said, oh, not till next week? I tell everybody, don't you dare put that on your to-do list. They don't need it till next week. They're just asking you now. You can't do it now, is what but you're having a hard time saying no. So you're like, okay, let me go jot that down, that Cindy needs this next week. No, you say, Cindy, oh, awesome, because this week's really full for me. Do me a favor, and next week, will you remind me? I would love to help you. And next week's better for me too. Why don't you remind me next week? Off your plate, off your mental load, off your mental burnout. And guess what? Maybe not, Cindy, you might not even need it next week, because most of us aren't patient. Most people just go get the answer.
And that's very true. Like you said, most of us aren't really patient, and you want to be people pleasers and you want to do everything for everybody. But like you said, and there's nothing wrong with being a people pleaser, because I know I feel that way too. I like helping other people. I like when I can do something to do that. I'm going to ask this a little bit different in example. What about if it's the family requesting things and your friends, like I have a party coming or this, or, what do you do in those instances when you feel like you can't say no to a friend, or especially the in-person one? Because like you said, text and emails, well, of course, more text probably from, friends and that. But when it's in person, how do you approach that to protect your time without, coming across mean?
Yeah. Well, you heard in the tone of my voice, that's not mean, right? Honesty is the best.
Yeah.
It really is. The sooner you can give someone a note. Now, you're talking about something else. So let's go to like an invite, right? Or those types of things. But like a kind of, when you get a chance, can you send me this? Can you do this? I used to get that stuff at work all the time, and I used to get so annoyed. I'm like, but they're asking me because they know I'm always so quick to respond, and I'll get it to them right away. So all you're trying to do there is buy yourself time. All you're really trying to do is in the in-person is not say yes right away. Just say, you know what? Let me get back to you. Can I get back to you tomorrow? Buy yourself time to breathe for a minute, to think about what you're about to say no to. Because that's the key, is that if I say yes to Cindy on this day, what am I saying no to? Other obligations, things I could get done for work? I don't know. But the point is that what happens is people will then complain and be bitter and resentful. Oh, I have no time to get to the gym. I have no time to take care of myself. I have no time to do this. But then why are you saying yes to everybody's everything that's really not has much to do with your life? So now when it's about an invite, a family member, these are also great questions. Yes. I think what you're saying here is more of like, you feel like it's an obligation. Yes, I have obligations. There are things I don't always want to do. Yes, there are sacrifices, things I have to do. But in those moments, think about, what's best for me and my family and the people I love, right? Because to me, it's like me, my husband, and my 2 kids. Okay, everyone's fine. We should be able to do this in a perfect world, going to these birthday parties and things. It should all be fine. But what about in that moment, like 2 hours before, and people aren't okay? Could I sit it out? Could I text them? I'm so sorry, we're not gonna be able to make it. Because the reality is they should be fine without you. My husband always tells me, he's like, we're really not that important. But the reality is people want you there, of course.
Yeah.
But something came up, and it's not okay for my family to go in this moment. Maybe my kid's not okay, or she's going through something emotional, or we're late. The other thing is, remember, your boundaries are for you and to protect your limit. If someone else doesn't like them or respect them, that is a reflection on them, not because of what you did or said. They still might be disappointed. Yes, I get that. But you didn't do anything wrong by communicating a healthy boundary, saying, I am sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. Can I make it up to you or take you out to lunch next week for your birthday? I really it's okay to say I'm sorry. It's okay to do those things, but it's also okay to disappoint somebody if you're not okay. And if it's not aligning with your values and goals in that moment. Also, okay, back to obligations with family. If you're like, I don't want to hear the aftermath or whatever people would say, it's just easier to go than to hear the, complaining about why I'm not going. Well, then fine. But when you're there, remember that was a choice. You can't be bitter and resentful. You made the choice to go, so go. If you're saying, I can only handle an hour around maybe certain people or things like that, you should know your limit. And when you start shifting into like kind of bad energy inside, I just want to leave, then do it and do it gracefully. And
which
just
is
say,
a great advice. Yeah.
And I know it's hard to do, but remember, if they can't handle that, it's a reflection on them. And I get it. We might love them so much. And we know that they might not understand. They might call us selfish. You just have to decide, am I okay with that? Because remember, I'm talking to the person that says to me, I give and give and give, and I have nothing left for myself at the end of the day. I'm talking to that person. The me some days where I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. I took on too much. I still do. And then I go back and I look at my week and I say, what can I move around? That maybe this was a coffee date with a friend. I can call them and apologize and say, I kind of took on too much this week and I'm really sorry to move this.
And I think I think the way you just termed it and approached it is a nice way of letting someone down, and gracefully, and like you said, sometimes we take on, too much. And speaking of taking on too much and being a perfectionist and a people pleaser, you talk about having an invisible mental load. And you talk about 3 things to kind of address it: to name it, assign it, and then release it, which, as you know, for perfectionists is hard because, but could you talk to somebody or talk to our audience and kind of walk them through this invisible mental load and how to name it and assign it and release it, and hopefully help take things off our shoulders?
Yeah, in that talk that I was doing, it was really on how there's research behind it, but I don't have the statistics. And ironically, my husband showed me this, is that the female brain typically runs like a grand central station, all moving parts, everything's connected. The dentist appointment's connected to something else 6 months from now. And it's like our brains are never off. They're like open tabs that are always open. In fact, if you looked at my computer, I got about 15 of them open. Now, typically, scientifically, in a male brain, it's like kind of in 4 parts. They could potentially have 4 thoughts at one time, and it's the essentials, okay? It's what keeps them alive. And their brain typically goes there first before they make a decision. Ours typically does not. We are just helping everybody everywhere and da-da-da-da. And sometimes it can feel like they're being selfish, but they are taking care of themselves first. Because if you don't do it to yourself, nobody else will. So I live with the master of that, but he's incredible because he's trying to teach me, like, Emily, if you're not okay, how are they going to be okay? So in this talk that I gave, it was on helping primarily women and moms learn how to communicate what's called shared ownership. A lot of women that I work with will take it all on. And if I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. And all these things. I agree with them. I said, listen, I'm right there with you. I can do it faster, easier, this more efficient, all the things, right? But what's that costing me? How can I empower my children to do it? How can I communicate with my husband to share an ownership over something so that I'm not taking on everything all the time? Because the reality is and nobody likes it when I say this part, but we all agree, and I'll put it on me. I'm to blame for that because I didn't communicate that I'm getting burned out doing this in the house, that I didn't communicate or ask for a different solution because I wasn't able to ask or receive help. But I try to switch the words from help in a house because you're not helping me. If I say, can someone help me do the dishes? It's not me you're helping. It's the dishes that need to get put away because that's how we take care of the house. So I'm trying to reframe the conversations into not help mom and help me. No, these are just dishes that need to get done. It has nothing to do with me. It makes no difference. I just also need that. Like, I'm not emotionally attached to this. These are responsibilities of the house. Who wants to take ownership of that from start to finish? Maybe you phone a friend here and there if you can't get to it. But that's the thing, is my husband and I have kind of decided what are our core responsibilities in the house. And sometimes we need help. That's a ask for help because that's typically my chore or whatever that may be. But now it's empowering my kids. There's times I'll say, when they were younger, Mommy, I need a snack. Mommy, I'm hungry. From the age of 2. Yeah, you guys might think I'm nuts. But I would say, what would you do if I couldn't help you right now? Cindy, I absolutely could have helped them. I could have stopped what I was doing and helped my children, which I did every time up until this moment. Yeah. Just curious, kiddo, what would you do if I wasn't able to do it? But she looks right at me like, you are. And I was like, no, I really want to see what you do. Yeah, the reality is it's going to be messier, slower, right? But guess what? They've still been getting my kids are 8 and 6. They get their own snacks.
Yeah. How do you approach it if someone isn't willing to help you take on some of those tasks? Like you said, they're not helping you. These are family tasks or couples or however, it could be, or family, if it's a family get together or something. How do you try to reel someone in to maybe assist in these things if you feel like someone's not going to take it on? Do you just have to ask and say, please do this? Or, because I know you also said, hinting doesn't create action sometimes. And we all know you can hint, and somebody won't listen or won't receive it. And then we get frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think that type of hinting and that type of implying, it just takes longer. And honestly, most people can't, at least, I don't say most people. It's not fair to think that like even my husband's going to read between the lines. Why can't I just be direct? Hey, and this is literally, it was a story that happened. I actually loved vacuuming. I loved making the lines. I loved it. It was great. And then one day I didn't. I'm sure it wasn't one day. I'm sure it was over time. But I just said I can't do it anymore. It's literally sucking the life out of me. Now, most partners are solution driven. Okay. So most of them are like, well, are you asking for help? And I'd be like, yeah, what solution do you have? Because I just really don't want to do this. Now, remember, I was probably kind of heated up and a little bit upset. And he literally said I could do it. Now, what happened was though, Cindy, I made the mistake of micromanaging him. He didn't do it right. I know we can all laugh, but I'm sure we won't.
As a perfectionist, did he not
Yes.
get the lines just right and parallel? And
no, you will gain that task right back if you do it. You have to release control over things that really don't make a big difference, and you have to let it go. So if someone was willing, number one, if they were willing, let it go. But you have to be willing to. There's things we are very controlling over, and I get that. Well, then that's not the task to let go. Because if you're just going to keep nagging everybody, then that's not the one. But the other thing is, let's say the partner's like, well, I don't want to do it either. Now, two people don't want to do it.
right.
But here's the thing. I know it sounds so silly, like it's just vacuuming, but my marriage means more to me than arguing over this. And so I'm like, you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Maybe we can talk one of the kids into doing it. Let's say they don't want to do it. Now, nobody wants to do it, which I get. A lot of household chores. Nobody wants to do. Somebody has to. But at that point, we realized, what is it costing us? Let's just say it's other chores and things. What is it costing us? Everything has a cost: time, energy, money, mental health. Okay. My husband and I realized we actually don't really have a lot of time. And the time that we have outside of work is we want to spend with our family, not cleaning our house all the time. Let's just say it's that. Okay. So then we have our other resources. Mental health was declining because I'm not okay. I'm saying it over again. I'm not okay. So time is not okay. Mental health, not okay. Now we have energy, not okay. So the last resource is money. So at that point, we think about, is it worth it at this point to outsource it, to hire someone, pay someone? Again, could have been the kids, could have been somewhere else. But we realized if we put the money tool there, we're gaining back time, energy, and mental health. So for us in the moment, that was worth it. And that's what you want to think about. Now, you had kind of talked also about other family members or things like that. It starts with a conversation of partner to partner or children. Like, I'm not, I know I've been taking this on for 10 years, this many years or whatever, but I'm realizing it's something that I need to release. And I'm looking for you. I'm wondering if you have a solution. Because I think checking in with the other people, like maybe they have a solution and you didn't even have to ask. But the reality is like things shifted, and maybe it's a season in your life that's really busy. There's people I know that they'll go back to school. And I'm like, well, then what do you need to maintain your mental health and energy so that you have enough for school? And maybe you have to utilize a resource of somewhere else.
And like you said, I think unless you have that conversation and bring that on, and if it's like even a sibling in that, they might just say, well, you've always done it. We just let you go ahead and do it because you're going to do it and you're not going to be happy with how we do it. Or, and then there you go. There's your conversation, like you said, where you can say, okay, what's it worth it to me? Being that perfectionist. I would say as we're closing the show down here, what would be your words of wisdom to someone who's out there? How do they take the action and the step to move forward, to be empowered?
Yes. Empowerment doesn't mean doing it all. Empowerment means that you believe that you're worthy enough to have these conversations, that your energy, that your love, the life that you're trying to live is worthy enough of having them. They seem difficult at first, but almost everybody I've worked with says, oh my gosh, I feel so much better on the other side of this. Yes, I know I've hosted all the parties and I've done all these things. I got to sit this one out. I am more than happy to help you plan that, bring the dishes, whatever. But I'm going to sit it out this year, right? And then not being so afraid of other people's disappointment. And remember, like, if you're not okay, then why are we worried so much about that? So think about, yeah, so really just think about where you need to have these conversations. Again, there's many women in this world that do work like I do. I'm always happy to have that conversation with someone just to dive deeper, because I know this is difficult work. But imagine what's on the other side of the difficult work is joy,
right.
peace, you know.
And I think, yeah, and I think everything you're saying, you've given us so many helpful tips and tools and your own personal knowledge. So, Dr. Jacobs, thank you so much for everything that you've explained and what you're doing with your business with Empowered Moms and helping people kind of get their life back. So, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd like to thank our audience for watching. I hope that you found all this great information to help you out in your day-to-day life. Thanks again. And for watching, I'm Cindy Kainz.